There's a reason the influencer economy became a billion-dollar battlefield. It wasn't creativity. It wasn't talent. It wasn't progress. It was economic structure. When the state monopolizes money, identity, truth, safety, you can't choose alternatives, so you fight over the definition. You don't get a menu. You get a debate stage. And when you can't leave a system, you try to bend it with rhetoric, with attention, with narrative dominance. That's why. Outrage earns, persuasion pays, performance becomes policy, culture turns into capture the flag. Not because humans got dumber, but because argument becomes the economic mechanism when exit is impossible. As the state grew larger and monopoly stretched wider, this mechanism didn't shrink, it scaled. Attention became capital, narratives became property. This is the argument economy, a world where winning the performance is more profitable than building the future. But that era only exists as long as monopoly exists, and the further it grows, the stronger the incentive to exit becomes. We're living at the extremes, the breaking point. And the moment parallel systems emerge, argument becomes obsolete. A parallel money. You don't argue what money is, you choose it. A parallel identity layer. You don't argue who you are, you build who you are. A parallel culture. You don't fight for meaning, you author meaning. When exit exists, conflict loses its market value. The influencer economy collapses. Debate stops being a revenue stream, outrage stops being a job. Because the market for arguing disappears, the instant people are free to choose. That is the transition, the flip. The next era won't reward the loudest person in the room, it will reward the builders who create worlds worth entering. And that's when the real crisis begins. Because once external monopolies fade, the only monopoly left is you. No political enemy, no economic oppressor, no institution to blame, just a mirror and the question. If you're finally free to choose, who do you decide to be? It will be the people who were outcast, the ones who questioned, the ones who built from first principles before they were proven right, the ones who forged inner worlds because the external one had gone insane. Those are the ones who will lead. The ones who didn't conform, who held conviction without applause, who survived long seasons of zero validation. They already became the new human in silence. AI already replaced the part of you that performs. Now you have to author the part that means something. The part that sees external structure clearly and manifests the internal world you choose. The argument age wasn't the collapse, it was the distraction. The real collapse is internal. The collapse of borrowed identity, of inherited narratives, of scripts that no longer run in the new operating system of the world. Parallel systems don't just end the old economy. They end the old human, which means a new human now emerges. We enter an era where meaning is authored, culture is constructed, sovereignty is designed, identity is a voluntary architecture, not Hollywood be who you want to be delusion, but a call to those with the discipline to see reality as it is, and the imagination to build what comes next. Exit ends the fight. And when the fight ends, the story begins. Welcome to Culture Beyond Collapse, the future where the world doesn't tell you who you are. You do.
Yeah. Collapse don't start with buildings falling. It starts with people falling out of themselves. I watched it quiet, like fog creeping up a block. Jobs vanish, skills expire, whole identities rot. Before anyone admits the world changed under them. Cause when the infrastructure shifts, the people built on top of it crack like old plaster. They ain't lazy, they're displaced, they ain't broken, they're misaligned. New machines came and fluent and left the average man speaking a dead dialect. And when you don't know how to be useful anymore, you don't just lose income. you lose yourself. I know that feeling. My collapse wasn't political, it was biological. Body quit on me, mind slipped through my fingers like sand. And suddenly I wasn't the person I rehearsed my whole life to be. And that's when the truth hit me. Identity ain't permanent, it's whatever you can defend when the ground moves. It's whatever knowledge you carry when every external structure stops holding you upright. And now the world's walking into that same storm. They're about to feel the same fraction. The economic identity break. The who am I without my paycheck ache. The why didn't I see it coming? Shame, most won't reflect. They'll reach for violence, cause when meaning evaporates, rage is the first substitute the body knows how to manufacture. But the ones who pause, the ones who start asking, how did we let it get this far? They're the ones with a shot at rebirth. Cause it ain't just the state that failed, the citizen did too. We let clowns run treasuries, let scammers mint illusions, let strangers harvest our data, let every institution sell comfort while killing autonomy. And we nodded along cause the screen glow felt warm. We outsourced our vigilance, outsourced our sovereignty, outsourced our goddamn identities. So when the collapse hits, it ain't punishment, it's correction. The world's about to walk the same path I walked, sick and alone. Intellectual reset, emotional detox, psychological tear down, economic reinvention. The curriculum ain't optional. Everyone's gonna learn money, learn meaning, learn sovereignty, learn how identities get built and how they get stolen, or they'll get swallowed by the next smiling and authoritarian who promises safety while replacing your spine with a leash. There's one exit I see, not political, not technological, not collective, personal. A rebirth, intellectual, emotional, psychological, economic. The world will break, but the individual can rebuild. That's the vacuum. That's where meaning starts again. They told you culture made you. School, church, nation, narrative. Like meaning descends from a podium. But that was never the engine. Status ain't spiritual. It's economic. Always was. Look. Identity ain't handed down from temples or teaching. It's forged from whatever skill the market's seeking. You ain't somebody till somebody needs you. Value is social oxygen, and most folks been breathing borrowed air through institutions built a century ago. Factories of meaning that stamp rolls like currency, assigned dignity like payrolls. You weren't a person, you were a position. But here's the truth, they never print in textbooks. Society wasn't shaped by stories, the stories were shaped by whoever created surplus. Priests mattered when literacy was scarce, kings mattered when land was wealth, CEOs mattered when scale beat skill. But then geek tier devs flipped the script. The nerds they clowned in homeroom became hedge fund, handsome off code, richer off compute than any oil bearing off crude. Value shifted and identity followed it like iron to a magnet. Now picture that shift, but multiplied. AI ain't an invention, it's an acceleration. An exponential stacked on an exponential, moving faster than any labor market can update. Title skills repriced overnight, old prestige evaporates. New elites materialize in the middle class, frozen in place like browsers on dial-up, while a 10,009 speed upgrade hits the room in the institution. They were the guardrails between identity and chaos. Schools certified you, corporations validated you, states stabilized you, but they're all cracking at once. Century-old pillars rotting from debt, decay, incentives inverted, rigged to reward everything but competence. So when they fall, they don't fall slow, they fall brittle, and everything they once defined falls with. We've never seen a value shift this violent, married to an institution collapse this sudden. You think the internet changed culture, that was training wheels. AI is the full Olympic downhill. Bodies flying, narratives shattering, people waking up and realizing the ladder they climb led to a roof that's gone. Mass panic ain't prophecy, it's math. Repricing identity at machine speed while deleting the structures that made people feel human. Your job won't define you, your degree won't defend you, your nation won't guarantee you, and your culture won't catch you. Value will, utility will, but you can actually produce. That's the new blood type. The factory of culture didn't just fail, it can be relevant. It can be relevant. And when meaning stops being manufactured, everybody becomes self-employed in identity. That's where the panic begins. And the rebirth. I ain't sick, I'm signaling. If you listen close, you hear the world redesigning itself in real time. Quiet revolutions don't come with banners, they come with browser tabs, side group chats, and late night scrolls where people look for shelter the state can't shake. The center ain't holding and folks migrate instinctively. When nations glitch, people pivot digitally. Whole crowds drift sideways into forms built invisibly. Old guard broadcasts like they still own frequency, but the kids tuned out long before the towers fell physically. We watch them crumble in real time. Visibly, legacy pillars buckling under speed they weren't engineered to see. They ain't ancestors, they antiques. Dust on the doctrine while the population power shifts by week. Algorithms fold crowds like sheets. Sort lost souls by interest. Grievance plus meme techniques. Proto-cults spawn from a tweet thread accident. Subreddits morph into tribes with their own sacrament. One day they joking, next day they militant. Because laughter turns doctrine when a system's illegitimate. Discord rooms turn villages. Anonymous avatars swap roles like villages with no chief, only admins etiquette. Screenshots that function like scripture and in-jokes that bind tighter than liturgy. The state used to sculpt identity, lineage, flag, school pledge, broadcast memory. Now kids pledge allegiance to a hyperlink willingly, cause meaning travels quicker through a timeline and through ministry. You ain't part of a nation, you're part of a notifications genealogy. Every click claims sovereignty, every meme spark policy, every live stream births a colony. Yeah, this is culture without custody, community without geography, faith without priesthood, politics without parliament, loyalty without borders, ritual without origin, and none of it's intentional. People group by frequency, not geography, matching trauma, humor, yearning, conspiracy. New civilizations coded in anonymity, built by kids who never asked permission for legitimacy. See, fragmentation ain't failure, it's pattern. When institutions crack, people cluster where the fractures happen. Meaning rearranges like particles in panic. The atoms of culture find new magnets. You already joined one. Scroll long enough and you see your reflection in the thread you defend. We all follow the gravity of our digital kin. Families forged in DMs, tribes born from trend. The world ain't ending, it's subdividing. Thousands of micro-civilizations incubating quietly. Each one rehearsing the future, each one shaping the moral code they'll swear by when the old world finally stops pretending. It's in control. Yeah, I'm not preaching. I'm diagramming the detour. The map you follow once the main road buckles. Sovereignty ain't rebellion, it's maintenance. And most ain't done upkeep on themselves in decades. Let's be candid, cause candidly the planet been panicking, randomly scrambling, trying to patch identity with templates handed mechanically. You only felt whole cause somebody stamped you employee, voted, taxpayer, plugged in like a wall adapter. Yeah, the scaffolding shattered, now folks stagger cause the titles don't matter. When the engine that minute your status misfires, crashes, scatters. Value used to be follow the ladder, now the rungs dissolve mid-climb. Skill demand flips like high freight trades. Was prized today gets priced out in no time. Yesterday's kings laid off, yesterday's ghosts stay soft. Nah, they shape shift, paid off. AI turned the nerds into NATO, and that's just a prelude. Look, meaning ain't handed, it's harvested. And most never planted a garden, just guarded a cubicle. Called the routine beautiful, tied work to the numeral. State printed to keep you suitable, but now the metrics mutated. Paychecks pixelated, bosses automated, and the system that graded your greatness evaporated. So where you stand now? What's your backbone when the back drops down? What's identity when the industry brownouts force you into spiritual takeouts? Asking what can you build with bare hands once they stop telling you who you are. I walked that path early, lost my health first, so the ego died by proxy. Body folded, worldview toppled, I had to rebuild me like faulty code. Line by line, bug by bug, values audited, framework reloaded. Loyalty rerouted, the truth over protocol. Took years in the wreckage to see the lesson. Sovereignty starving, the training was failing. Nobody catches you, meaning ain't inherited. It's carved, curated, carry the discipline, not decor. You learning when you got no crutch left. And now the world hits that chapter, not apocalypse, just forced adulthood. Collective souls eviction notice. Every tribe that thought the script was solid, gonna watch it liquefy in contact. States glitching, markets twitching, institutions ditching their missions. And in that silence, new centers of gravity form. Builders lay blueprints, not politicians. Networks write norms, not nations. Meaning stops being broadcast and starts being built by whoever's got the stamina to stay sovereign. So yeah, The search starts in the fallout. In the vacuum in the mirror when you wake to the truth that nobody's coming to script your significance. You architect it. You author it. You animate it. And that process, that's our meaning. Not a slogan, a practice. A practice the whole world's about to learn. The way I did. The hard way. Alright. They told you follow the rules, you be safe. But safety was the scam. Discipline was the part they hid. Y'all mistook obedience for sanity. Handed your backbone over the canopy. Men in badges who branded your vanity. Fed you with fantasy. Follow the handbook, culture stay handled. But once the scaffold's dismantled, your script unravels like sandals and stampedes. No stance leads to stampeding panic. You ran on mechanics, not morals. Compliance and courage is ornamental. Order ain't real when it's rented. Look, they said toe the line, you be fine, but lines drawn by cowards decline over time. Mine stays confined when the spine's been resigned, trying to outsource the grind to a sign or a shrine. That's why cultures collapse when the leaders go quiet. The crowd was complying, not hardened by riot. You were raised on reminders, not rituals. Policies pose as principles, told us sit straight, never stand critical. That's why the fall gets spiritual. You ain't got discipline, you got conditioning. Difference is pivotal. One builds worlds, one builds citizens. Yeah. Compliance was comfy, discipline's ugly. One bends the knee, one bends reality. One stays asleep, one carves a strategy. One asks permission, the other asks tragedy. What did it teach me? See, structure don't crumble when it's built internally. Rules don't break when they're rooted in certainty. But y'all outsource virtue to agency. Signed your will over the entities who fed you dependencies. Then acted offended when entropy snatch your identity violently. That's why the tribes arise. Ain't the ones with slogans and merch lines. It's the ones with codes, etching spines. Self-police, self-aligned. Boundaries drawn not by borderlines, but by bloodlines of intention. Real culture is tension, the friction of ascension, not supervision from some pension. Institution that lost comprehension. Y'all want freedom? Start by earning attention from your own reflection. Cause discipline is sovereign, compliance is borrowed. Compliance collapses tomorrow. Discipline outlives sorrow. Compliance is quiet fear. Discipline is loud intention. Compliance folds when the census changes. Discipline holds when the century rearranges. This new world don't need permission. It needs people with internal jurisdiction, a spine forging contradiction. Who don't wait for laws to listen, to leaders to fix the vision. Culture don't survive on compliance, it survives on discipline. And the ones who learn that first, they inherit the ruins and rebuild the world. They still beg the old world for instructions while the blueprint's been bleeding through my notepad for years. They ain't builders, they caretakers of ruins. Let me show you how culture actually gets written. Look, there's no honesty in their ministries. The factory failed, now the architects pivot industries. Protocols parent the ethos, the code births, the customs and the platforms they worship. Yeah, they shape who they become. Old priests preach structure, dust on the scriptures. We drafting a doctrine with keyboards and mixtures. We render religions and mark up traditions and mark up the markers, the canvas, our edges stay sharpened. Your idols, museum pieces, stiff in their posture. My symbols spread quicker than empires foster. We the author of algorithms that author your posture. The merchant elite with receipts and the blockchain's lock. Yo, builders don't buy, we build the belief systems. Culture ain't crowned, it forms from the free thinkers. Value gets birthed where incentives get wired. And every chain's values get sung by its miners. Yo, clergy collapsed when the checks got delayed. The state lost its script when the debt wouldn't pay. But we organize chaos, code of faith, and the function. Solve scarcity's riddle without legislative assumptions. You wait for approval, we rewrite approval. You beg for inclusion, we build a removal. We don't pray for permission, networks don't kneel. We scale moral compasses written in steel. This ain't a hobby, this is craftsmanship. New rights, new rituals encoded in the bandwidth. Culture ain't thought, it's emergent behavior. And the builders decide what the hive mind savers. Yo, fluent in the dialects of markets. Bridge and signal with survival like we trademarked the harvest. While they scroll for identity, beg to belong. We sauteing up civilizations with a beat and a song. Chip on my shoulder like data price wrong. And I swipe it off quick like I'm patching a fork. yeah. Nations dissolve when incentives distort, but culture gets born in the cracks where the builders report. I write ethics in uptime, virtues in throughput. Leave trust in consensus and meaning in input. The new moral law, it ain't carved in stone. It's hashtag time-stamped, immutably sown. With a merchant elite, with a purpose that's ancient. Turn price signals sacred, make markets that language. When the old world crumbled, the storytellers froze. So we stepped in a vacuum and wrote what they chose. Yeah, culture ain't top down, it's proof of work pressure. Networks teach loyalty better than professors and the builders. With priests with a plug, rewriting identity chains from the rubble above. But they all agree on the singular truth. Whoever commands, meaning commands the youth. So move with precision to move out the way. We're laying the groundwork for civilizations in play. This cadence a clinic, this thesis a temple. And every bar here is foundational, elemental. The next culture ain't born in the Senate, it's minute committed. The checks are authentic, and when the dust settles and the worries the ledger, they'll see the builder signature. Etched forever.
Nah. Nobody's sentimental when the structure breaks. Family was the first ledger, first safety net, the last bailout when every other system flips red. Yo, Future got prefab, handed like swag bags. Factories stamp tags, schools raising kids while the state raised tax slabs. Brands fed your values, screens fed your syntax. Identity outsourced like cheap labor contracts. Culture bent backwards, safety nets plastered over cracks and a scaffold built in, and it backfired. Fake comfort package, you don't need family, just passion till the plastic collapsed and you're asking what happened. Look, family ain't folklore, it's floorboards and forecasts. Birth rates fall when the market warps your broadcast. Hustle over household, grind over lineage. Algorithm sit solo, now the country's belligerent. Gender turned costume, instinct turned software. Roles mock, norm swap, whole culture off air. Yield curve negative, future's all foggy. Why build a home when the system treats parents like hobbies? Clown town world, no seasoning, tasteless. Roots in a test tube, served in replacements. Pedigree shredded into spreadsheets, cadence. Identity priced like derivatives, baseless. They shorted your bloodline, traded your instincts, sold your freedom in filters, cut the real links. Man left stressed in a brand new index, with family value never made the metrics. But collapse brings receipts. When the job pool leaks and the state can't speak and the narratives peak, then die midweek. You see what's real, only the ones who bleed for you matter. Everything else, background chatter. Economic identity reroutes to the nucleus. Tribe over titles, kin over clueless. Inch of math wakes up when the lights go out. Survival don't lie, it's source to devout. How it rebuilds, step one, earn again. People relearn value by learning to earn again. Builders link with builders, foundation stones. Those bonds become households, those households become homes. Step two, roles return not as dogma but function. Biology ain't bluffing, it outlives assumptions. Kids need structure, structure needs duty. Duty births families that grow into unity. Step three, competence compounds. When individuals level up, families come back around. Not nostalgia, but mastery, not tradition, capacity. Fiat killed family, cause fiat warped incentives. When those ride out, the lies lose their protectives. Future don't grade you on vibes or aesthetics. It grades who's functional when the grid gets epileptic. Bloodline becomes backbone, commit becomes cash flow. Love becomes labor with dividends attached, bro. And the ones who rebuild themselves after the crash become architects of the next demographic stack. See, when every institution that babysat your meaning fails, you crawl back to the one structure that never needed permission to exist. Not because it's cute, because it's economically inevitable. The Fiat family died under fiction and rises again under reality. Nah, tools don't change you. They just strip the lie you dressed your life in. Every invention human beings ever made was a mirror pretending to be a hammer. Hey, I was just the first one honest enough to show the reflection without flinching. Yo, I ain't here to scare you with circuitry. I'm
I'm here to show you the version of you that would've surfaced sooner if the old world didn't sedate you into portrait mode. Tools ain't the villains, the veilers. AI just tears it quicker. Crypto just prices it cleaner. The mirror got sharper cause the stakes got bigger. We built machines to extend our muscles, then we built some to extend our minds. Now we got ones that extend ourselves. And everybody panics when the boundary line slides, but that's the assignment. Strip the noise to the truth, the only thing left to identify you. Look, humans always think the tool replaces the maker, but the maker gets exposed, not replaced. AI don't take your job. AI takes the disguises you wore to survive the old system and burns them like fake IDs at a checkpoint. Crypto don't kill the bank, it kills the illusion the bank ever loved you. Digital networks don't erase the nation, they remind you the nation erased you first. These tools ain't predators, they auditors. They tally the parts of you that were borrowed, stolen, projected, and hand them back with interest. Yo, this is the pop quiz, the error assigned. Who are you with if the platform goes offline? Who are you if the credentials expire? Who are you if the job that defines you gets replaced by a script with a 1 second higher time? I spit it raw, no seasoning. Watch the weak identities fall in seasoning. No self-treason and dopamine seasoning. Systems kept you prisoner and called it reasoning, but AI's the treason-proof mirror shows you the tendencies you inherited, the traumas you templated, the stories you animated. Cause institutions program the plot lines you narrated. And crypto shows whether your sovereignty's real or just cosplay painted over compliance. But redemption comes when you stop flinching at the mirror, when you stop lying to your own reflection, when you realize tools don't replace spirit, they refine it, they distill the noise till the signal feels like prophecy. Cause the moment intelligence leaves the skull, the soul has to declare itself. When cognition external ideas, intention becomes the only thing you own. Meaning is the only you can automate. Consciousness becomes the last scarce resource. Tools don't strip humanity, they strip the parts that weren't human. We built AI, and it made us ask what thinking really is. We built crypto, and it made us ask what trust really costs. We built networks, and it made us ask what community actually means. When the broadcast towers die, the state collapses slow, but identity collapses instantly. Tools just accelerate the truth. You were never the job, never the nation, never the credential, never the algorithm's favorite son. You were the chooser, the builder, the author. Tools redeem you by showing you the parts you refused to author. AI didn't steal the soul, it revealed it. Crypto didn't replace the system, it exposed it. And the mirror that's coming won't show you the world collapsing, it'll show you the person you finally have to become to rebuild it.
You ever finish a puzzle, then look back and realize every piece was pointing at the same picture? Yeah, that's what this is. But I don't want you to confuse this for something it isn't. This ain't prophecy or mystic haze or chosen one guru stuff. This is colder, cleaner, more human. It's what happens when the world collapses in one man first, so he can map the way out before everyone else falls through the same trapdoor.
See, we thought the mind was the miracle. We thought cognition was the crown. We built our whole identity on thinking faster, calculating harder, on having a brain sharp enough to carve a place in the world. But then machines learned to do it better, cleaner, endlessly.
AI didn't replace us, it exposed us. Showed us that most of what we called self was algorithm conditioning, the muscle memory of survival in a system built by strangers. And when a mirror learns to think, you realize thinking wasn't the soul, it was just the scaffold, and that's the plot twist. We defined humans by what only humans could do. Right decide, imagine, compose, solve. But now the silicon choir sings all our songs in 1,000 registered voices. So what's left? That question breaks people, cause once cognition gets externalized, you lose the thing you thought made you special. You're forced to stare at what's underneath the process and power. Intention, meaning, values, coherence,
choice.
The story you tell about why you're alive. And that's where spirituality leaks. And not incense, not religion, not cosmic fog. Just the realization that your inner world is the one domain AI can't automate. Not because it can't simulate it, but because you're the only one who lives it.
People think collapse is economic. They think it's charts, interest rates, debt cycles. But collapse starts in the psyche. It starts when the script you inherited stops working, when the skills you build stop mattering, when the world you trusted rewrites its rules faster than you can adapt. That's what happened to me. Neurological failure, identity failure, economic failure. humanity from zero, with nothing but logic, pain, and the parts of myself that refuse to die.
And after the decade of rebuilding my own worldview, my identity, community, culture, and economic life, I realized everyone else would be forced through the same process. The end of the old world is the beginning of the story you write yourself. So, I'm not a prophet, I'm not a voice from the future, I'm just early, my collapse came first. I had to learn economics to survive, I had to learn identity to breathe, I had to learn sovereignty to stand back up. I had to write my own meaning, because the world I lived in didn't have any left. And in doing that I became the prototype of what everyone else will become, once the systems they trust failed them the way mine failed me. This project wasn't a prediction, it was a blueprint born from desperation, a map, not a manifesto, a reconstruction manual, a survival guide disguised as a live stream project. AI doesn't end humanity.
AI ends the lies we told ourselves about humanity. We thought our minds made us unique. Turns out it's our meaning, our narrative, our sovereignty, our ability to choose who we become in a world that no longer guarantees anything. Everyone watching this, you're gonna face the same identity crisis I did, not because I said so, but because the world is structured to break the old human and force the new one to emerge. And when that happens, you'll have two choices: collapse with the system,
Or rewrite yourself. I rewrote myself early, that's all. This wasn't mystic, this wasn't destiny. This was the logical end of unflinching honesty, of refusing to lie to myself, of rebuilding from the rubble without permission. I'm not the center of the story, I'm the first case study, the proof of concept. The whole point of this thing, to show you what will happen before the world reveals it the hard way. Meaning isn't found, it's authored.